All right, so this is the last sermon in kind of the Christmas Advent season, right? This is kind of it. This is the we start with talking. I think we're doing the Creed next week. Yeah, we're doing the Creed. I should know, right? Like we're doing the Creed next week up to Lent. So that's where we're kind of going here, and But this is Epiphany Sunday, and Epiphany Sunday is where we talk about the three kings, or the three Magi, the three wise men. Like, how many were there? How many were there? Like, I don't cheat. You know, like that. That's like, but actually, there. We don't know how many there were. We don't know how many. It was kind of just like a roving band type of thing. We know that there were three gifts. There could have been just one guy. It doesn't have to be a guy, right? Like it's kind of written guys, like, hey, you guys, right? Like that's kind of how it's written, right? Like, and so we have all these things. What we do know is that kings isn't the language that's used in Matthew. You know, like that's not, it's actually Magi that's used. So what's up with this song calling it We Three Kings? Like why are the kids when you're seeing those Christmas pageants, are they singing and you're yelling from the back, they aren't actually kings, kids, sit down, right? Like is it bad that we're singing that? Well, no. They weren't kings. And the reason why this song was written that way is because it's kind of subverting the normal ways of power that we see. So, who were these people? Well, they definitely weren't of the tribe of Israel. They definitely weren't that. They were outsiders. They were magicians, sorcerers. They were wise men. Like that's who these people were. Like, and I hear what you're saying, like sorcerers and magicians. And if you grew up in a house like mine where Harry Potter wasn't allowed, you're like, are we even allowed to read this part? That's ridiculous. That's a stupid joke. But that's kind of what we see there. Like these guys are outsiders, right? And they were like astrologists, astronomers. It's kind of back then the lines were kind of blurry with all of those things. And they saw this special heavenly body, this kind of star, and they see that it's like a new king has been born. They see all that. So who are these guys? We actually see people like them in the Bible in another part of the story. In the Exodus story, when Moses goes up to Yul Brynner and says, "Let my people go," you know, when Chuck goes up, you know, he goes up to Pharaoh, and that, like, all you boomers got that reference. Like, I could tell. Like that's and so when Moses goes up to Pharaoh and says, "Let my people go," and he brings out his magi, his magicians, his sorcerers on either side of him, and they throw their staffs down, and their staffs magically become snakes. And then Moses throws his staff down, and it becomes an even bigger snake, and it swallows up those other snakes. Those are magi. You can also see this truth whenever you visit Universal Studios in Orlando. Like, because if you ride the Mummy ride at Studios, like it's right before they fling you into the roller coaster part of the position, the Mummy yells at you, "Only the Magi can save you now." Like as it goes forward into there. So these are common characters, and they're not kings. They're not kings, but they're like these magicians that are going forward here as we see, and it's all about their gifts. So in a good Lutheran church that cares about the text and what's going on and all this stuff, should we just get rid of this song, "We Three Kings"? Should we, whenever our kids are singing it, like, be quiet, you know, like we only need accurate stuff? Like no. And I'll tell you how I use this, and I can't remember who I talked to about this, if it was either Tom or Curtis, when we were talking about music for Christmas Eve, because this was one of our songs on Christmas Eve. I was worried about length on Christmas Eve because we had like 10 songs. It's a lot of songs, and that we were singing, and I was worried about length, and I was like, oh, maybe we could like take some verses off of We Three Kings And to do that, I was reading through the lyrics, and I was like, man, to do that, we'd have to get rid of two of the gifts. You know? It's like, which one's our favorite? Like, and like that's, you know, and we got to get rid of two of the gifts. And I was like, for a matter of 55 seconds, we'll keep all three gifts coming in the song. And it kind of got me looking at this song and kind of brought us to today about what this song is about and why it's called We Three Kings and all of that. So it was written in the mid-1800s by this guy. Look how handsome he is, right? John Henry Hopkins Jr., right? Like that's, and he wrote this for well, you got to understand this about him. He was Episcopal. I know, right? And he wrote it for a Christmas pageant that was in New York City during this time, all right? And the reason why he wrote it is that there really weren't any songs for like during the 12 days of Christmas. There were no hymns about this, and there especially weren't any hymns or songs about Epiphany and the wise men. Here's what's interesting. This is, I think, inside of us, we think that the Christmas pageant, you know, when you think of a Christmas pageant, you're like, you have all those things. We think that that's just existed forever. Like right after Jesus died and rose again, like people are like, let's do Christmas pageants and all that stuff. Like no, that is only about 175 years old. Isn't that crazy? Like Christmas pageants aren't very old. The idea of a nativity like this is not very old. Like that, it was around. So when he was creating songs for a Christmas pageant, this is all pretty new stuff. And it was well known back in his day, and even going back to Luther's days, like 400 years before him, that there were many of kings, you know, literal kings, like back in Europe and in the Middle East and all that stuff, that they were taking that Magi title and they were calling them kings. Even John Calvin, who is a well-known theologian, a contemporary of Martin Luther's, spoke to this, and he said that the kings of the world are hijacking this biblical narrative to support their own power. I'm glad things have changed, that none of our powerful try to use the Bible and its story to try to gain more power for themselves, right? We don't have any leaders that go, oh, I'm a Christian, vote for me. No one, everyone's like, we're not going to talk about this. Not going to talk about there's none of our political leaders do that, engage in that antichrist behavior, right? None of them. Like this was a huge problem. This has been a huge problem forever, right? Like, and we can see this. We still even see it to this day. But what this song does, even though it's called We Three Kings, it orients us. It moves us, and it changes how we look, from moving our eyes from the kings wanting so much power around us to the true king of the universe. And we see that, and the way he does it is through the gifts. So we see that this song is all about these unexpected people coming to the true king of the world, sharing their gifts, right? So star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. The song focuses our eyes on the same place that the Magi focused theirs. And we go into the gift. So the first gift is gold, right? It's a gift for a king, but notice, it's all important, notice who's bringing this gold. It's these unexpected people, these dirty Gentiles, these outsiders, that, like, they weren't part of the inner circle of Israel. They are not part of the people that are supposed to know who the king is. But notice what happens. they go to the inner circle, or are supposed to know what the Messiah looks like, to Herod and Jerusalem all with him, and to the religious elite. All the people that should know, all the people that walk around like with their big flowy robes, talking to people on a Sunday or Saturday morning. Never mind. All right. They all refused to see and they missed it. Right? Like, this is a warning for us. That sometimes we can get hijacked, we can believe those that are in power that hijack the story. Right? This song speaks against the monarchs for over the ages who have hijacked this story. So the gold brought by the Magi does the opposite. It speaks of a king that is not of this world. It speaks of a king who doesn't sit on a throne of gold and demand things from you, but who lies in a cradle and only asks for your heart. The Magi, they first go to the wrong king, but they quickly, they hear Herod talking and they're like, this guy, like, did you see that knife behind his back? You know, like, there's not a knife in the story, but you got to read through the text, you know? Like, they quickly see through Herod, this man who is all about earthly power and gold, right? And they leave, and they end up finding the true king, Jesus. They find a toddler in just a common house. This story is a subversion of power, the subversion of a narrative. True power isn't found in the one who has all the gold, but the one to whom the gold is surrendered. This is a reminder for us in the world that it's not about us trying to get more and more and more. It's not about us trying to get more power and more gold, not trying to get more, to draw more people in, to have power and more gold, but rather seeing that the true kingdom is found in sacrifice and giving. Or as the song says, born a king on Bethlehem's plain, gold I bring to crown him again, king forever, ceasing never, over us all to reign. So the next one is frankincense. Okay, the thing to understand about frankincense is you got to understand there are 3 types of worship services in the world. Has anyone heard this before? There are 3 types of worship services. And I'm going to go ahead and get you ready. Whichever one is your favorite one, you're going to get offended by what I say. All right? You have in the Lutheran Church, what we would be called is chancel prancing. All right? Chancel prancing. Everyone's like, well, I don't like that. Like that's. Then you have happy clappy, and you have smells and bells. Those are the 3, right? Like that's, and whichever one you're like, oh, I don't like that, but I'll make fun of the smells and bells people, you know, like all that stuff. Like those are the 3. And this one kind of comes from the smells and bells side of things. In the Old Testament, when they would worship using the temple, they would burn things like frankincense. It's like incense. And what incense did is it represented the prayers of the people rising to God. It was a sign of divine presence. So it's like the prayers of the people like ascending to God. And that's why you see when you go to a smells and bells worship service and they're swinging the incense, that's what it means. It's a beautiful image. And so when the Magi offer this incense, they're making this staggering theological claim that this child is not just a great leader or a wise teacher, but this child is God in the flesh. That this is the incarnation, that he is Emmanuel, that he is God with us. And this is what we celebrate. Like part of the line for this one is, incense owns its, gosh, I can't read. Incense owns a deity nigh. We are constantly trying to make gods out of all these other small things around us. We try to make gods out of our politicians, gods out of our celebrities, gods out of our pastors. You know? Like that. I hear how you guys talk about me. Like that's, like all that stuff. We even try to make gods out of ourselves. You know? That's what cults are. We just make a god out of somebody. The Magi remind us that there's only one worthy of worship. And he doesn't even look like a god, at least the God concept that we have in our own head. He looks like a vulnerable child. It's backwards. And he looks, and the Magi show us that God meets us not amidst the terrifying clouds of Sinai, but in the humble reality that God is in our skin. And so we see this in that lyric. Frankincense to offer have I. Incense owns a deity nigh. Prayer and praising, all men raising. Worship him, God most high. And then the third gift is super special. Myrrh. Myrrh, this, so this is not a gift that you would give to a child, all right? So you got to understand this next thing. Like, so I was just hanging out with my nephews. I have two nephews. One's 15, just started driving. He's just started driving. The other one is 12, and I hurt my knee pretty bad wrestling with them. But like that's like they can hurt me now, and I'm not a fan of that. But like that's so it's fun like hanging out with them and all these things. But can you imagine when they were first born, if I came and I showed up with this giant box for one of my nephew's first birthdays, right? And I showed up, I'm like, yeah, open it up. And they open it up, and it's a coffin. And I'm like, they're going to need it. Right? Like over there, people would be like, you don't win uncle awards by doing that kind of behavior, do you? That's how you become crazy Uncle Bob. Like, and you're just going to have bad political takes at the dinner table all the time, right? Like that's how that happens. That is what myrrh is. It is a perfume that is used in the embalming process, or at least not back then it was. You know, it's used for the dead in burial. It's a weird thing to give, right? This is where the story is being told about Jesus, because the cross of the shadow of the cross is constantly over the life of Jesus. The shadow of the cross is constantly over the manger in this young man's house. The Magi bring myrrh because the king's greatest victory is not won with a sword or an army, but through his own death and blood. In the Lutheran Church, we have a teaching. It's my favorite thing about the Lutheran Church. And it's a teaching called Theology of the Cross. And what it is that we believe that God is most clearly revealed not in glory and power, not in success, not in greatness, not in any of that stuff. But God is revealed in the suffering and the death of Jesus for the sake of the world. That the myrrh tells us that Jesus didn't come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. To serve and give his life as a ransom for Magi. These foreign sorcerers who weren't allowed to watch movies about when I was little. You know? But also for those on the inside, but are still part of the outside. For shepherds that are just dirty and they're outside of the city walls at night. And he goes to the very bottom so that even us, even when our lives aren't going great, when we've fallen down and we're in just a pit of our own making and despair, God comes and dies, Jesus comes and dies on a cross so that none of us are left behind. He comes and dies lower than any of us. So we sing, myrrh is mine. It's a bitter perfume. It breathes a life of gathering gloom, soaring, sighing, bleeding, dying, sealed in a stone-cold tomb. When Henry Hopkins Jr. wrote that song. The world was in complete chaos. 1857 is when he wrote this. In America, the Dred Scott decision had just been handed down, and the nation was fracturing itself over slavery. In India, a great rebellion was shaking the foundations of the British Empire. Earthly kings were grasping for power, and the poor and the broken were being crushed in the gears of history. I'm so glad we're beyond that now. In the middle of that political storm, this carol pointed to a different kind of power. Notice the Magi didn't go back to Herod. They departed into their own country by a different way. When you encounter the true king, the one that you give gold, incense, and myrrh to, you cannot go back to the old way of doing things. You cannot go back to the world's version of power. You know, we may knock this song for, it's not three kings, and the whole Star of Wonder thing. But let us never lose sight of the truth that this song carries. The Magi were the first of a great multitude of unexpected, unworthy, outsider people, including us, to be drawn to the light of Christ. And this Easter verse of glorious now, behold him arise, King and God and sacrifice. And then the most Easter word of Easter words, alleluia, alleluia. Earth to the heavens replies. I love, that's such a good verse. Earth to heavens replies. It's like this symbiotic relationship of going kind of both ways there. Today, we come not because we are wise, but because of the wisdom of God. We come not because we are kings, but because the King of Kings became a servant for everybody. This day, we join with the Magi. We bring our gold. We bring our resources, right? We take our times, talents, and abilities, everything that we have, and we bring it to him. We bring our incense, our frankincense. We bring our prayers and our worship, and we bring our myrrh, our brokenness, our mortality, and our deaths, and we lay them at the feet of the one who has overcome the world. Glorious now, behold him arise, King and God and sacrifice. And I think that's good news. And we'll end right there. Let's say a prayer. God, we thank you that you are with us and that you are always watching over us. Lord, as we see those Magi and the gifts they bring, may we continue to bring our gifts to you as well. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. We'll sing our next song.